Hello, this is Bill Meridian again on March 18th, 2015. This is the sixth in a series of presentations about eclipses. This is South America and the March 2015 solar eclipse. This is actually an analysis that I did for clients who are looking to invest in that part of the world. And I looked ahead 2 or 3 years ago and saw that the Pluto-Uranus square would be afflicting this part of the world, particularly Brazil. So I warned them away from it, which has turned out to be true. This has now been written up and will appear sometime in Dell Horoscope magazine this year. Let's see how the analysis developed. The solar eclipse on March 20th at 29 Pisces 27 is on the world point 0 Aries. In case you don't know the world points, they are 0 Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. If you have any planets close to those degrees, the function of that planet will come out into the world very easily. So if you are a writer and you have Mercury at those points, it's great because people will read what you write or listen to what you say very readily. If you want to keep it a secret, like Richard Nixon and the Watergate tapes, it's a negative because it's hard to keep things secret. So great exposure goes with 0 degrees of the world points and also 15 degrees of fixed signs, because 15 is 45 degrees. And that will also connect planets to the world points. Just put it on a 90-degree dial and you'll see what I mean. So an eclipse there affects the world in general. The last such eclipse was 0 Cancer, June 2001, just before 9/11. Also, we are on the last Uranus-Pluto square, which occurred on March 16th. Now, these events all carry an extra strength. Charles Jane taught that the last aspect in a series of outer planet transits struck the telling blow. And Luther Jensen, the stock market analyst, made the same statement in his stock market work, saying that if, let's say, the Dow Jones Industrials was trending up, and let's just say planet A squared planet B or opposed it 5 times due to retrograde motion, Jensen would say the first time, let's just say the trend is up, the aspect occurs, it trends down, the second aspect occurs, it trends up, down, up, until you get to the last one. The last one decides which direction the market will head in. Just as Jane said that the last aspect in a series will strike the telling blow. So this is the last Uranus-Pluto square from the series that began in 2012. So it's the most important one. Item number 2. The square creates planetary pictures with all entities that have a natal Uranus-Pluto square as those in South America do. The rule, which is unbreakable, equal arcs make planetary pictures. If A and B are 90 degrees apart and C and D are 90 degrees apart, then there is an axis, a common axis, that unites them all. You can see this by drawing this out on a 90 or a 360 degree dial. Item number 3, the solar eclipse is on the world point of 0 Aries, as I already mentioned. Now, H. Ross Perot has his Jupiter at 0 Cancer. He's known for being very wealthy. Jupiter at 0 Cancer. The actor Anthony Perkins is very well known for one movie, Psycho, and for the shower scene in which he has in his hand a big knife. He has his Mars at 0 Aries. And we all know, if I say Hillary, we all know who I'm talking about. Her moon is 28, 29 Pisces, close enough to 0 Aries to make her famous. Now, a scan of national horoscopes a scan of national horoscopes turns up many Latin American countries. That means I punch 0 Aries in, searching for conjunctions, oppositions, and maybe even squares. And this shows me that 0 Aries is conjunct Pluto in many of the national horoscopes, including Brazil, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Peru, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Mexican Republic, Nicaragua, and Honduras. Many others have Pluto in late Pisces, such as Colombia and Argentina. That's quite a concentration. Now let me just stop here and state that this is not unusual. For example, at the end of World War I in 1918, many countries formed, treaties were drawn, borders were changed, etc. 28 years later, all of those new entities will have what? A Saturn return. 84 years later, they have what? A Uranus return. After, let me see, 50, 60 years, they'll have Pluto square Pluto. I've seen this many times. So you could go to issues that came up post-World War II, 1945. Any entities formed then will all experience certain outer planet transits or eclipses hitting their Pluto, such as this, because all those entities were formed at the same time. Now, item number 3 here, the reason is that in 1820, 1822, most South American countries broke away from colonizing European countries. Pluto was at 0 Aries in space, conjunct the Iranian planet Cupido at 28 Pisces, and Uranus and Neptune were conjunct at 0 Capricorn, which is square to 0 Aries. And for good measure, let's throw in the Iranian planet Apollon, which was at 0 Cancer. So, I mean, even if you just took Pluto at 0 Aries, square Uranus and Neptune at 0 Capricorn, you've got something to write about. It essentially was the dissolution of the Spanish colonial era in the Americas and also of some other European powers. Now, if you don't know what Cupido means, it is the urge to merge. The urge, whenever somebody gets married, there's a strong Cupido. It rules clubs, groups, organizations. It basically is integration within yourself. And if that goes well, you're a good, as we say in New York, schmoozer. That is, you get along with groups, you get along with people, you're a good networker. If it doesn't go well, it means you feel very uncomfortable in groups. In national horoscopes, it's got to do with the glue that holds society together. So Pluto conjunct Cupido at 0 Aries meant that the glue was coming apart. And Apollon was at 0 Cancer. Apollon is the urge to be free. When Apollon is present, ideas propagate. I once had a client who had Mercury, Apollon equals midheaven, he distributed magazines. I had a client who had Venus, Apollon equals midheaven. She distributed clothes, beautiful items. Apollon is the power of marketing and distribution. If you have a good Apollon, you're a good networker and you're a good marketer. So this meant the idea of being free spread very rapidly everywhere. And curiously enough, just before I started to do this, I see that Netflix is now going to be available in Cuba, of all places. So that's Apollon. That's spreading out, contacting many people. Now, equal arcs equal planetary pictures. These national charts, as you've just seen, have Uranus-Pluto squares. This means if you have a Uranus-Pluto square in space, then you have Uranus-Pluto transiting equals Uranus-Pluto natal. And to prove this out, as I said earlier, put 2 points 90 degrees apart on a 90 or a 360 degree dial. You'll find an axis common to all 4 planets. Note that the 4 are not necessarily in any conventional aspect. So now let's look at Brazil. September 7th, 1822, and I've thrown the Iranian planets and the kitchen sink in here. You will see Pluto, 0 degrees Aries 13, Cupido, 28 Pisces 41, Uranus, 3 Cap 24, Neptune, 2 Cap 29, and Apollon, 0 Cancer 32. So again, the Uranus, Neptune, an idea or a concept that sweeps through people, the same thing we saw when the Berlin Wall came down. Apollon means it spreads everywhere, and Pluto Cupido, old organizations, connections break down. Let's go forward to Peru, July 28th, 1821. This one not very different than the other one. We see Cupido, Pluto, 27 and 29 degrees of Pisces. We see Uranus 29, Sagittarius 48, Neptune 0, Capricorn 48, and Apollon 29, Gemini 32. So all of these countries are being affected. Now, the main character here is Pluto. Pluto does have something to do with interconnection, particularly if it's got to do, I think, with trade, with debt, and with what's below the ground, oil or gas. Here are the manifestations. Brazil is suffering from a drought. The economy and the currency are weak. Falling oil prices are hurting any energy-producing countries in that region. There have been disruptions over cutbacks in government programs and rising prices. Thus far, I know this has happened in Brazil and Peru. Major corruption scandal at the state oil company Petrobras. That's Pluto and Neptune. There have been protests against government cutbacks in Peru. Here's Pluto-related news. A confrontation on February 10 between local police and the community in Pichinaque could have major implications for oil and gas production in Peru due to pollution. They are protesting because a company from outside the country is drilling in that area, and they claim it's causing pollution. And, of course, too much debt, which you could say for just about any country. So, several years ago I saw this. I advised clients to not invest long-term in Brazil, and I did write this up. It appeared in the national newspaper in the United Arab Emirates when I was writing for them. So at this point, my take on it is that due to the Pluto ability to interconnect or to draw connections that we don't see between different countries, a problem here is a problem everywhere. A problem in one country affects another country. They're all interrelated, mostly by what's below the ground, energy, and through debt and trade. So I don't think this area is going to remain stable, and as I said 2 years ago, it's the next Greece, the next Eurozone. So let's review the principles that were used to run through the analysis. 1. A scan is run through a database of national horoscopes. I have 2 databases, one filled with countries, another filled with notable people. The first doesn't change very much. The second does, especially in those countries that like to bump off the leader every 90 days. No, it's hard to keep that one fresh. 2. This will turn up a shared degree area. That is important for a group in an area. Thus, when those degrees are activated, all the entities involved are activated. 3. As Charles Jane said, breadth is essential in mundane astrology, meaning in order for it to be a big event, it's got to affect horoscopes in a number of areas. If it only affects one horoscope, then the activity is isolated to that entity. 4. The last outer planet transit in the series is the strongest. 5. Transiting planets create planetary pictures with natal planets that have the same angular separation. And as always, we close with the sales pitch of the predictive power of eclipse paths, now available at BillMeridian.com. Thank you for listening. I hope to speak to you soon.